today, at the end, when you want to know, even if you want to know if a brand is legit or not, or if their service is good or not, because you don't know them that much, you wouldn't normally go to Google and Google it. And you will always find news articles at some point. That tells you how important it is to work on that credibility, because at the end, if El País or Diario Sur or the TV talks about you or your brand or your product service, it's a third party. It's not you, it's not your client, it's someone else saying, hey, this is good, or this has made this breakthrough, or whatever. So I know and understand why sometimes getting this visibility is not often taken in account right at the beginning. But sometimes it's right at the beginning where you can really get it, because what you're doing is super cool, or you are getting an investment, or someone who is known already is part of your startup, or it's something to keep in mind, because at some point someone will ask, have you been in the media? Are you part of the news or not?
Welcome to Sit with D, the podcast exploring different lenses of success through conversations with entrepreneurs, athletes, investors, creatives, and leaders from around the world. Because success is rarely just about talent or numbers. It's about resilience under pressure, discipline over time, communication, reinvention, and the courage to keep going when things get difficult. Your host, Dora Entrepreneur and Triathlete, goes beyond the highlight reel to uncover the mindset, struggles, and human stories behind sustainable success.
Hello, Kaajal. How are you doing today? Very, very welcome on this show of Sit with D, and thank you for taking the chance to join us for this episode.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here, and thank you for the invitation. I'm super excited to talk with you today.
Yeah, it's a lovely topic that we are going to discuss today, because this is about intentional communication, as you are a communicational and PR expert. So I choose this topic, and I'm really excited to uncover this with you, because our audience is mostly entrepreneurs and aspiring founders these days, when everything seems to be about speed and as fast execution as it's possible. A very important topic is intentional communication, not just internal but external with our clients. So, and I couldn't choose a better expert on this than you. But
Thank you.
can you share a bit of your background with the audience, just to give a bit of context why we are actually here together?
Well, my background goes all the way to studying PR.
Okay.
I did public relations and advertising in Malaga, in the University of Malaga. And then I've always been dedicated to doing PR or communication. And after studying my degree, I went to Madrid, which I always say was like the way I learned about PR, like in the spot, because, you get to a PR agency, you're super young and you want to do everything. So I was lucky enough to be in teams where I learned a lot about PR and had different clients and different events that we had to manage. And we were specific teams for different topics. So I was there for 5 years, more or less, in Madrid, where I also did a master's in press relations and institutional communication and so on, because in a way, now I know, but at that point, I think I only followed that path because it was what I liked, but I didn't know if I was good at it or not, or if it's something that I would continue doing as of today, 20 years later. So I've always done communication. Then I came back to Malaga, and Malaga today is a great place to live, to be, to work, and you have so many opportunities. But maybe 20 years ago, 15, 18 years ago, it was a bit harder for someone doing communication and PR, maybe because there was not that much of a mindset here in Malaga or in Andalusia about the importance of doing strategic communication and corporate communication and, building trust and reputation on a brand, be it a small brand or a big brand or a local brand. So I was an entrepreneur myself, which was also a very good way of learning different things related to doing PR, right? So it was a super good experience. It was super hard. And, numbers never added up.
Okay. We've
But
all
still,
been
I
there,
was
yeah.
oh,
When you hope really much that, okay, I did everything that the book says and that everything I believed, and it still doesn't turn out like you wanted it. Okay, then what's next?
claro. But still, it was a great experience, and I think it's part of who I am today too, because I realized I could manage a whole project. I could advise my clients at that moment. I could set up my own events because I set up an event on about strategic communication in Andalusia. So I would, I wanted like the ecosystem at that time in Malaga to embrace a bit more the having a communication person in the teams and so on.
Mhm,
But finally, as I said, numbers didn't add up, and I was like, I prefer to go to the safe side,
mhm,
and things in Malaga were starting to go better. There were more companies, and the having a communication profile in the team was a bit more common at that point. So I joined Spain Holiday, which
mhm,
was a holiday rental platform based in Malaga, but with national reach and international visitors coming over to stay in Spain. And then I was there for 4 or 5 years. I helped the brand grow. I helped the brand to be in touch with different stakeholders, different business competitors
mhm.
at a national level. And then I joined FreePick, where I also helped, it's been more or less the same every time I've changed company or ways of working, because most of the times I've been starting from scratch.
Mhm.
But with EMIC now, I've just been hardly over a month, but the brand is known in Belgium for the last 40 years and in many other places in the world because they have offices in many countries.
Mhm.
And in Spain, it's known, but we're starting from scratch, which is, I think, my thing
Yeah.
doing communication, the ABC and then moving forward.
Mhm.
So that's a summary of my background doing communication and PR.
You have a bit of everything from like institutional to granular as an entrepreneur yourself, and also in different sectors, moving from hospitality and tourism to a more hardcore tech dominant sector is also
Same.
quite a change. The two companies you mentioned at last, the FreePick and the iMac, two key components of the same formula, like the hardware and the software. This also gives a very interesting perspective, at least to say the timeline. You all seen like how the Andalusian region evolved in the last 15 years per se to what we know as Costa del Sol or Costa del Tech. I would like to ask you about your personal definition of success and if it has been evolving or changing through your journey in PR and communication over the years.
I think that if we refer to success as a personal success professionally talking,
Mm-hmm.
I would say it would be something like the joy of seeing the outcome of your work, which is, well received and that stays long, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
PR is a very long term activity. It's like when you plant a seed and you have to put water in it and take care of it and save that small plant from other insects and so on. You have to take care of that, and you need to water it every now and then. And PR is more or less the same. So when at the end of a long process you see the results, and the reputation of a company is saved because what you did before, years ago or months ago, established a good relation with stakeholders, and you get the awareness you want, and you see that stays
Mm-hmm.
longer than you. For me, that is success.
Mm-hmm.
PR wise, I think anything that stays and the mark is there of work well done, PR wise, is always a success.
Yeah, it's a bit resonating with the concept of Simon Sinek, the infinite game, that basically your success outlives you, your work outlives you, and it's going further, even if you are not in that team or in that environment anymore.
Yes, because it's happened from my experience when I've been in Spain holiday, free pick, and now probably in IMEC. Mostly when you start from scratch, you have to go knocking to the doors of everyone, like journalists, other stakeholders, institutions, or even your clients, the users of your product or service. What happens when you do, you're not very annoying with sending out too many communications, and you have a well-established strategy, media relations wise, for example. At some point, it turns around, and then it's them, sending you an email or calling you to ask for a specific quote from your CEO or for a specific expert comment on a topic they're working on, and so on. So being on the top of mind of the journalists is not something that happens like that. It takes time, and it takes strategy, and you can't leave it behind. You can't say, okay, now they're calling me. It's fine. You still have to nourish that relation, because it's a win-win. I mean, it has to be a win-win. Huh? You want to see your brand or your CEO in the top tier media. You have to make your content interesting enough for the journalists to use it, and then to remember that what you provide to them is very interesting and normally is of quality, so they will come back to you to ask more when they need it.
So, diving a bit deeper on this, and especially we are talking about starting from scratch. How easy or hard is it to create a consistent messaging strategy in the beginning?
Well, as you said at the beginning, this podcast will be seen or and listened by entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
And normally at the beginning, I understand you can't have many people for different things. So it will, if it's you yourself, the entrepreneur who is trying to do this, it will be hard, because not only because you're one person or two people for everything, but because it's like your child. So it will be like the best, it will be the best thing in the world. So you need someone that helps you what the vision or the mission you want your brand to have, and how it will help society or your clients and so on, and what does it have that can make it appealing for a journalist to write about you or your product or your service in a specific moment. Now everything is online, so supposedly there is infinite space to write about stuff, but until very recently, it all had very limited space. So you needed to highlight, to stand out amongst other products which could be the same or of the same industry, etc. So to build a core messaging, I think you need that person, that CEO, the person who knows exactly what they want with their product, and someone who has this knowledge of what makes your product, your service, your announcement newsworthy, and the timings. Maybe today it's not newsworthy, but in a month's time it is, because something has popped out, and and even if sometimes journalists really need new content, but there is like a gap between these journalists that are in Madrid or Barcelona, no, with only focus on Spain, or even Malaga. But then they won't be looking for sources anywhere. They will use what they know, their top of mind, their agenda, the person they met in an event, or maybe they ask their colleagues and they could get a contact. But normally it's like a fast-paced work for them too. So you need to get that link happening. And sometimes from the entrepreneur side or small companies that think, oh, well, I don't know why would they write about me? It's a matter of trying. That's why I said it's a very mid-long-term situation. You have to try, and you have to provide interesting information and explain why it helps society or your clients, and what impact can it cause. What is your uniqueness in a way, no? And the timing, as I said at the beginning, is very important. So you don't need to do much. You just need to, adjust a few things and insist, no, a bit.
I work also with founders and entrepreneurs, not really who are from 0 to 1, but the ones who already have a validated idea and they want to go from 1 to 10. Intention and strategy comes into the picture. So what usually is happening if they didn't choose in the 0 to 1 stage the visibility or the focus
Mhm.
visibility and communication, but they were super focusing on the features, the functions that the program or product has, and how it's going to work and for how much we are going to sell it. The bottleneck of the scaling is mostly about how we are going to make it like viral, how people will actually understand and know why is it so good, and not just for a handful amount of people who were willing to buy it at a higher price, but on a bigger scale. And I think here is the moment when experts or advisors in this area can come into the picture and help these teams to grow intentionally with a structure and with a strategy.
Yeah. Yeah, because I was thinking while you were talking, and thinking startups and scale ups.
Mhm.
It has happened to me with Spain Holiday and Free Pick. At the end of the day, many of the business agreements or situation or evolution go through the visibility and brand awareness that the people from outside get or see. And today, at the end, when you want to know, even if you want to know if a brand is legit or not, or if their service is good or not, because you don't know them that much, you wouldn't normally go to Google and Google it. And you will always find news articles at some point. That tells you how important it is to work on that credibility, because at the end, if El País or Diario Sur or the TV talks about you or your brand or your product service, it's a third party. It's not you, it's not your client, it's someone else saying, hey, this is good, or this has made this breakthrough, or whatever. So I know and understand why sometimes getting this visibility is not often taken in account right at the beginning. But sometimes it's right at the beginning where you can really get it, because what you're doing is super cool, or you are getting an investment, or someone who is known already is part of your startup, or it's something to keep in mind, because at some point someone will ask, have you been in the media? Are you part of the news or not?
Mhm.
Or even if you have clients in some other country, sometimes they would look on Google and look for the credibility, the reputation of your product.
I was working with a fintech company on wealth management. The core idea over there was more about, in these terms of visibility, working very, very hard on the SEO, but not just the keywords part, but technical SEO. And one of the biggest quests we were having is the backlink strategy, how much references you get from other sites and with high domain rating, credible sources like Yahoo, New York Times, and
Mhm.
etc. Because that were, as you mentioned, increased the credibility of your brand. So the more mentions, the more from the more well-established media sources you were receiving, not only the people, but also the digital search engines were rating you higher and positioned your content higher on the search results. So that's why I keep telling all the entrepreneurs your core offering, how your product works is super important. Yes, because if it's crappy, no one's gonna buy it, or if they gonna buy it, then it's gonna come clear very soon that it doesn't worth the price. But if you cannot tell the external users or clients why is it super special, why is it making an impact, then you are missing out one of the big parts of the formula for the success, because this is visibility and network effect. So it's not just your vision and discipline to execute it, but also how you make it like more well known or clear to the world. Why is it making a difference? Speaking of the different industries, the hospitality and technology, and now the hardware side, how can you make topics digestible or interesting for the press? In technology, there are some terms which are super complex or may sound a bit raw or dry.
That is a good question. There are several ways, of course, because most recently, for example, and it's something I really enjoy doing, it's, I don't know if you've heard of the term newsjacking.
No, not yet.
Okay, well, newsjacking would be an example of how you can help that journalist and then, be part of the news. Newsjacking means, when there is a topic, a strong topic, I will invent this. Let's say, yo qué sé, es que no sé. People, there is something has happened, let's say in Malaga, regarding, no sé, the beaches, right?
Mhm.
And they have found different, it's super, I don't know, super, they have found different types of shells all around the specific beach with different
Mhm.
colors and something that no one has seen before. And, it's like, what's happened and where do these come from and so on. So, and then a brand, let's say, whichever brand that is dedicated to, let's say, understanding the ocean life, for example, could come in and say, hey, I know about this, so I can explain it to you.
Mhm.
And then that would happen only because that brand or communication person from that brand would see that there is a lot of buzz going on about these shells that have appeared in the beach and no one knows why. And suddenly someone comes up and says, okay, I can explain it to you. News junking is taking the opportunity of a topic that is related to your brand or product that has nothing to do with you, maybe, but you can still be an expert in that topic. And journalists sometimes need sources of, 3, 4 sources to talk about what has happened in the beach. And if you're fast enough, you
Mhm.
would say, hey, I can tell you, I can be a source for you. So newsjacking would be a way of getting in these type of things. And then, as I think I will say it a couple more times, it's a long-term relation with the media. So at the beginning, you will need to explain what you do and how you do it. Maybe show them, if you can, what you do, like implicate them
Mhm.
a bit more so they understand it. There are mainstream media outlets that will normally not don't they will normally not talk about tech unless it has a business or financial information related. And then there are very specific trade media which will, talk about semiconductors all the time, and they will be great with deep tech and hardware and everything. So you also have to choose the right publications and moments.
Many people doesn't really know what is a
Right.
semiconductor, how you explain it, or is it really explaining or giving examples that they can relate to?
Yeah, it's a mix of everything, actually. So,
Explaining is not all the time working because they are losing their interest on halfway because it's so deep tech. You need to find a way how you enter this sweet zone when you can still give a context and you explain more with examples like how would you explain to a 5-year-old kid like what is a semiconductor, and that resonates usually like if you find an example that lands well.
if we continue with semiconductors, the way of getting attention is, okay, semiconductors is cheap and, it's a hardware, but what does it serve for? Which is the application? How a person at home could understand, okay, I have a great laptop because, the semiconductors, the chips that have been put inside have been, researched and have been improved and evolved years ago by so and so. And
Yeah.
that's why I have a great laptop.
You also mentioned in a previous comment there is situation when everything is normal, a laid back situation, and when there is a kind of crisis communication that's different. I think you were at the time at Free Peak when there was a change in the industry about that shaped significantly the how the company was navigating their strategy. And I think that was an example of like, okay, how is that crisis communication going on without going too much into the details what happened. I would like more to gave a highlight on how this is different and how you can maintain your calmness under pressure and reflect to your audience and to the press that yes, we are aware of the situation, but this is what's going to happen, and this is how we are moving on.
Is it when Freepik decided to go from a stock image platform towards a creative suite?
No, it was more when in 2021 there was the first announcement or outcome from the OpenAI of their model, and the CEO said what we were working on the last 1 or 1.5 year is gone, and they had to reinvent the strategy and say, okay, this is how we are going to move forward.
I was thinking that as far as I know, with OpenAI or the eruption of generative AI of images and video hasn't been that much of a communication crisis, but
Okay.
more of a business shake, no? Like
Okay. Hmm.
more of more internal and more for Joaquin at that point. He was like, what am I gonna do?
Yeah.
So, but I don't think not. It was not a communication crisis. It was more a business, not even crisis. It was, we've been working on setting up a stock image platform, which was one of the best in the world with so
Yeah.
many visitors and users and so on. And suddenly what we've been doing for the last years is would serve no more because there is an AI that will be doing the same, if not now, in a couple of years. No? So it was maybe more an internal shake of the business and
Uh-huh.
the company, the whole mission and the vision. It has taken a couple of years, and now we have rebranded as Magnific to serve the purpose. So I think business-wise, it has actually been like an opportunity to evolve and be something else, which has a lot more potential. And then communication crisis would be anything related to, for example, if you have a cybersecurity breach and
Okay.
your millions of your users have suffered that breach, and you have to announce it to the organisms, and then that normally gets to the media, and now you have to start giving explanations of why it has happened, what did I do wrong, or where did it came from, and then that would, if things come out in the press about a security breach of your brand, and it has happened in Spain for very big brands, that is something you have to deal with, or anything that impacts your business and your brand, and makes it to the media, and it's negative
Okay.
input or a negative perception, then that is a crisis. Then you have a crisis communication.
Okay. The reason why I thought about the first example, it's also case like timeline. Yes, both it still relates to the brand, what was happening, but it's just so far in the future ahead that it doesn't have an instant implication to users, and that's why it's not entering the crisis communication or like the communication side for the external stakeholders.
Mhm.
Unlike if there is an instant impact, an immediate effect on the users or on the public, then that's when you are entering into the crisis communication.
See, or even if it doesn't impact the public, maybe one of your employees or one of the people in the executive board has done something to your brand, and you have to respond because it's communication crisis, but it has nothing to do with your business or your clients, no?
Do you have a personal good practice or mindset that helps you, especially as a professional, to navigate these difficult times?
I don't know. I don't know if it's professional or personal, but as you know, my the phrase I like to say is like, go with the flow, meaning, nothing is 100% good or bad, or, nothing stays forever. So even a crisis or even a good super news. And so, take it as it comes. When you do PR, you normally plan long term and also short term, and you go getting results, but you're looking at the long term and the long run. And sometimes if something goes wrong in the middle, it's bad. I mean, you don't like it, but still you're in the long term race. It's like a marathon. So keep that, I would say, that is the way you have to look at whatever goes wrong in the middle. It's bad. You learn from it, move forward. Because at the end of the day, you're a PR person for a brand, it's a team, and you all go towards the same mission and objective. So it's a way of keeping up, staying calm, knowing you've done your best,
Mhm.
that you know what you're doing, and if you don't, you ask for help, and it's on you, no, on how you are with the life and world, and if you're honest and you normally like to follow the rules and so on, normally you will adjust to whatever comes.
So, Kaja, we are very close to the end of our time. It's very hard to cut this conversation, but I have a very last question for you on the idea of being a person of words versus being a person of action. What do you think how these two dimensions complement or conflict with each other in entrepreneurship?
I think you need both. If you have to choose one, I think it would have to be actions,
Mhm.
right? And I like writing and using words and saying the things in the right way with the right meaning. But words are words until they are an action, until they become something else.
Mhm.
So I think we all need both. And if you're an entrepreneur, you need to really sometimes that when you say then you really have to make those things happen, make things happen. I'm not saying if things happen with the word, like now we have it's a podcast and we're talking, it's great, but you will need action most.
Yeah. So let's get act on things what we all heard over here. I think it was a very, very inspiring and intense session in terms of like how we walked through not just timelines, but different industries and how in the different stages or life cycles of a company or team, the communication can enter or exist from day one on a more intentional basis. And I just really hope that more and more teams realize that communication is not a support function, but it's a strategic driver.
Yes, I
And
agree with you.
especially in times of transformation, like when teams or companies want to scale or like enter to new markets and territories. So thank you so much for your time,
Thank
Kaja. It
you. It was
was it
great.
was very energizing for me as well, and I wish you all the best with semiconductors or what may come.
Yeah, I hope you read something in the news.